what's up? Today is Top 5 Wednesday, and Top 5 Wednesday is a weekly discussion group that was created by Ginger Reads Laney, and there are links down below like always. This week we are talking about the top 5 tropes we hate the most. Honestly, I feel like any trope, no matter how annoying it usually is, they can all be done well, so I don't just flat out avoid books that deal with any specific cliches or tropes, but then I got to thinking that there really are 5 things that do steer me away from books. If these 5 things are mentioned in the book summary, I probably am not going to be adding that book to my want to read list until I've heard some really amazing reviews for it. Here are the 5 tropes I dislike the most. I really dislike insta-love. I think a lot of people will say that. It's not that insta-love can't be done well, and it's not that I can't still really get behind and support the relationships that are presented, but I find insta-love to be problematic, not because it's corny, because it can be corny, let's be real, but because the books that focus on insta-love usually spend so much time telling and not showing. They tell me for 500 pages that these characters had this instant connection that is stronger than any other connection that has ever been, but they don't actually show me how the relationship has developed. It's just like, whoa, boom, attraction, we're together now. Okay, that's great, but like, even when you're together, you should still be building a relationship. I want to see the build. I want to be able to really get behind it and root for it, so I wish books would do more of that and less of this, let's explain it away really easily with insta-love. Another trope that I pretty much never like is the teacher-student relationship. I know that it is kind of a fantasy for a lot of people, but when I think about when I was in high school and like my teachers, it just icks me out. They usually aren't very equal relationships. I feel like these characters are oftentimes using each other, and it's not really the most healthy relationship, or it can even border on emotional abuse because one of them can either threaten to spill and get the other one fired, or can threaten to fail that person. I also just don't see these characters in these relationships as being in the same stage of life, so I just don't see a lot of compatibility there. I'm saying all of that in terms of YA books. There are adult books that deal with adult classes, and those are a little bit differently when you're both adults. I don't think that these relationships should be romanticized in literature that is being read by younger audiences. I'm not against tutoring situations when both characters are both students and they're not directly in charge of the other one's passing grade or not, but when one of them is part of the faculty at all, I usually just don't enjoy the balance struggle between these characters. A third thing that I usually find myself steering away from is the whole new kid in school cliche. There are so many books whose summary reads like this: Susie Everybody has moved from town to town her entire life, and now that she's finally starting to set down roots, some big obstacle starts to happen. I feel like I've heard that summary a million times, or even if they haven't moved around their whole lives, the start of this book is when they've just moved to a new town, to a new school. I guess the closest I can come to saying why it does annoy me is because I just kind of feel like it's overdone and it's kind of a cop-out for developing a more strongly rooted backstory for that character. The fourth trope that I usually really try to steer away from are books, especially YA books, that deal with the loss of a mother. This is a totally personal thing because I did lose my mom when I was very young. I don't often like reading about it. I really don't like re-experiencing those feelings because I have experienced so many of them in my own lifetime that I don't want to relive all of those feelings, and that can be very cathartic for a lot of readers, and it can be to me too when I read the right book, but for me it's just a big risk of whether or not that book is going to do it in a way that is connecting with me. But the biggest reason that I don't like reading books about that, especially YA books, is because when books are pitched like that, it usually is just a plot device to get you to feel sympathetic for the character, and the whole grief aspect of it is overlooked and the story turns into a romance, and I would rather explore it fully or not at all. And the last trope that has really been bugging me lately is this whole obsession with bad boys, and it's not simply the bad boy character, but it's more of the whole opposites attract thing. Usually, and this can be flipped by gender, but usually we have a meek and mild, very innocent female character who finds herself really wrapped up with this bad guy character who usually is pretty dark and has kind of a troubled past maybe. And I just feel like the romance genre is so oversaturated with this kind of a romance and this kind of a setup. Unfortunately, a lot of times bad guy characters can be portrayed as being a little bit controlling and jealous or manipulative, and that is shown as attractive or it is romanticized. But I just wish that like the geeks and the shy people were a little bit more romanticized equally, or or that we would see more pairings between characters who are similar, who have a lot more in common. Obviously, the good girl and the bad guy is a trope that works very well when it does work, and I'm not saying that it's totally awful. I just feel like I see it way too often, and I'm a little bit tired of it. I would just like to see a little bit more variety in what is portrayed as attractive or romantic. Do you know what I mean? So those are the 5 tropes that currently I find myself kind of steering away from when it comes to books, but like I said, they can all be done well, so let me know what your least favorite tropes are, or which tropes that you are just over and tired of. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!